I usually like to showcase something I got from the park as a prop for videos, but besides a little cup I got, let's just get through the intro. Disneyland Paris opened on the 12th of April 1992, and I wouldn't dare try and do a history lesson on this place, as there are better ones out there. But the TLDR is that the French community overall didn't want it, it opened, didn't do too well, they opened a ride called Space Mountain from the Earth to the Moon, that did well, and it's been an interesting history ever since. Again, way better videos out there. We're here to go into stupid detail about a queue line that just really pissed me off. That's better. Considering this is the only Disney resort in Europe at the time of recording, I thought I'd also mention in this video some details about the resort overall, including Disney Village, as well as some fun details of how to get there. I'll save Disney Village for the end though. However, there are timestamps below if you want to skip around. And if you're curious about the other theme park at this resort, Walt Disney Studios Park, possibly the worst Disney park in the world, it's on this channel right now if you're curious. Getting to the park can be easy, as long as you do it right. I would say fly into Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport, then get a train directly from the airport to Marlaville-Chesy train station. It really doesn't take that long, and it's kind of epic that Disney heads can go from the airport directly to the theme parks, completely ignoring any of the true French culture and instead getting a corporatized version of France. Smart choice. You don't get much of a wow factor as you leave the train station and enter the Disneyland Paris bubble. For me, my opening shot was of building walls, a few shops in the distance, and a surprisingly small Disneyland Paris sign with Mickey on top. After going through security, which I found painless, you have the option to either head towards Disney Village, Walt Disney Studios Park, review already out, or Disneyland Paris. You've read the title, you're still here, so let's head on over. Walking towards the park is actually rather relaxing. You see quite a nice looking building in the distance, that of which being the Disneyland Hotel, which by the time this video is out, is finally opened, after a long refurbishment, and it looks nice, and yes, it's probably as pricey as you think, then double it. Keep going and you'll see a statue of a Mickey hand holding a wand mixed with Cinderella's castle, paying respects to Disney legends from Europe, which is pretty nifty, not gonna lie. Disney music now fills our ears as we walk past some nice looking crap which you'd expect to see, like flowers and water jets, and finally, the entrance. To get to the entrance. It's cool enough, with a few entrances if you want to enter to the side for whatever reason. For example, if you want to drop your bags off, you can. Though I'll be going through the main entrance today. I wonder if the Disneyland Hotel is soundproof well, as if not, you'd be hearing mofos outside your room at all times, which cannot be pleasant. Once you're allowed in, you'll have to wait by the ticket scanning machines. I found myself at the front of one, and I will warn that if you don't like crowds, do not head early, as you will be surrounded, and you'd have to call out for help to get noticed, which may be rather embarrassing if you worry about that kind of thing. Nothing more to say here, so let's head into the park. Sadly for me, I had construction everywhere, so my first impression of the Disneyland 30 sign and the train station was rather lacking. However, once you've passed that, the reveal of Main Street is always pretty cool. In my case, a tram was out, characters were waving people in from above, music was blasting, playing that ultra happy like, you're in a theme park, please spend money, our stockholders need yachts, you know, that kind of vibe. The view down the street towards the castle in these kind of theme parks is always pretty damn sick, and Disneyland Paris is no different. The street is littered with shops, eateries, and other stores trying to rinse you of your kids' college fund. A few examples are a jewellery store named Bixby Brothers where I went, how much? Over and over, eateries selling baked goods and hot dogs, and a bunch of gift shops selling merch. I did get this fridge magnet from Disneyland Paris. It's rather ugly, but it was the only one that had the theme park's name on it, so I made do with what I could. It's hard to do a main street at a Disney park justice, as I'm pretty dang sure every building you see here can at least be entered or is very heavily themed, to give the image that you could enter it. What I'm trying to say is there's a lot of shit to do. One bit that I enjoyed walking through here was the Discovery Arcade, which is thankfully covered, so you can avoid the rain for a bit if you wish. Speaking of, here's Main Street in the rain. Ooh, Disney magic. But for real, the Discovery Arcade has entrances to some of the stores, a place to get ice cream if you want, but what stuck out to me the most was its nice mood lighting, cool theming on the walls, and the overall relaxed nature, juxtaposing with Main Street's normally packed and chaotic nature. Highly recommend coming here if you need to get away from the crowds. To get here, it's on the right hand side of Main Street as you enter the park. As I got closer to the castle, I noticed spinning metal figures of Disney characters chilling among the plants and the landscaping. It was a really nice touch, and it was fun working out who the characters were and what key features about the characters were able to make it onto these cool works of art. Sadly, this area outside the castle felt rather small in my opinion. This made my desire to see any nighttime show drop pretty fast, as it was cramped doing that at Magic Kingdom in Orlando, and that park's end of Main Street is pretty massive from memory, so be warned there. As for the castle itself, I must say it's pretty nice looking. The castle's colours contrast really well with the colours of a clear sky, and I don't remember this at any of the other Disney parks that share this castle, but the compass on the ground is a nice touch. Really gives off a feeling of adventure. Sure, there's some building that was going on to the side of the castle when I was there, but I won't let that detract from what the castle looks like on better days. Also, when I did my last pass through of the script before recording today, I went and looked at other castles at other Disney parks around the world, and I must say, I think this is the prettiest looking castle out of the bunch. Because we are in Europe, where castles are not rare, heck, at the time of recording, I live near Edinburgh in Scotland, so I get to walk past a castle somewhat often. I feel the designers at Disney had to get a bit creative with Disneyland Paris's castle, and I must say, they did a great job. It still looks like a castle, but one that we wouldn't actually see around here because, well, it doesn't make much sense if you were to use it as an actual castle, but it's so eye-catching now that I sit here and actually study it. So, fair play to Disney on that one. With this park, this area you are seeing right now is used as a hub that you can then branch out of to go to different lands in the park, as well as having parades going through this area. Since this is the key part of the park, let's start here and dissect the inside of the castle. So inside you can visit a few stores, one of which was a jewellery store, and one that was themed to Christmas year-round. The jewellery store was pretty well themed to the inside of a castle, along with some out-of-the-box stuff, such as having pillars that look like tree trunks. Kind of nifty. What is pretty cool too is that you can climb up a set of stairs and actually go into the castle a bit more and see a retelling of the Sleeping Beauty story through murals on the walls, and props relating to that part of the story. A pretty cool touch, not gonna lie. A nicer touch is that you can walk out to the balcony and get a view into one of the lands, Fantasyland. Head outside, try to avoid guests trying to watch a parade, and you can actually head under the castle through pretty subdued entrances. There's not much to talk about here, apart from the fact there's a fucking dragon! Yeah, you walk in, see nothing, turn a corner, and BAM! A flipping dragon! Come on, man, that shit's cool. It moved its head, looked pretty sick, and overall was surprisingly creepy and awesome considering we are in a Disney park. I'm pretty sure this is only found in this park too, so thumbs up for that. Heading back to the hub, let's head into our first land today with Discoveryland. We're going to ignore everything for now, including the sign, and make our way to this theme park's Space Mountain. It'll all make sense why shortly, just bear with me for a sec. Quick history lesson, one that I referred to at the start of the video. Disneyland Paris opened, and it wasn't doing the best, to put it lightly. The park opened without a Space Mountain, so that was produced ASAP to try and drive attendance and interest in the park. Needless to say, it worked, at least for a time. Space Mountain from the Earth to the Moon, as well as the retheme Space Mountain Mission 2, looked incredible from footage I have seen online. I love the Jules Verne, the Rocketeer, and A Trip to the Moon inspirations. It really made the ride stand out among the other Space Mountains, which, I would argue, are rather lacking. At least when we're talking about the Space Mountain in Florida and California. I can't comment on the others. Then, in 2017, Space Mountain in Disneyland Paris closed for 5 days for a retheme to Star Wars. Right. Other Space Mountains did this too, but they were eventually brought back to their original theme. Meanwhile, Space Mountain Mission 2, now Hyperspace Mountain, seems to be a permanent fixture, probably to tie in with the Star Tours attraction nearby, and the fact that Disney owns Star Wars and wants to get its value for money. Oh, and if you don't know what Space Mountain is, it is an indoor roller coaster seen at, I believe, every Magic Kingdom style park around the world, just in case you didn't know. What's annoying about Hyperspace Mountain is that we're almost being mocked with the outside. The exterior of this ride looks so damn cool. The design of the ride's building is sublime, even with the weathering colours, one to me that gives off a steampunk Victorian vibe. It looks so interesting from both afar and up close. From afar, the dome looks so unique and it stands out, driving people in to investigate further. I feel like a lot of Discoveryland does this. Like, look, this is me standing to the side just outside of Sleeping Beauty's castle. Space Mountain sticks out, inviting me over to come and take a look. Heck, the fricking plinths, which probably just hide speakers for shows, fits the Discoveryland theming of the aforementioned Victorian steampunky style. It's so bloody well done. Let's bring this point home more by quickly walking around Discoveryland. We enter past the sign, and to our left is the Buzz Lightyear ride. Minus peeking into the exit of the gift shop, you have no idea that this ride is an IP ride until you get to the front of the line. And even then, I'd argue this entrance isn't egregious. It fits Buzz Lightyear and his colours into the land's theme, but it doesn't overpower the main design philosophy the architects and designers wanted to do. In front of us again is the Orbitron. Unlike Buzz Lightyear, we aren't coming back here. So quickly, it's a spinner ride, but it looks pretty dang cool, and fits into the area really well. Same goes for Autopia. We ain't mentioning that again. The welcome sign to the ride is somewhat suited to the land, and it seems futuristic, but more of a future that will never be, if you catch my drift. Luckily, the attraction is somewhat hidden, as if you look down... yeah, it kind of ruins the vibe. A wicked touch though. If we move away from Autopia and simply turn around, we see a bit of landscaping worked in around 4 little towers, one of which has a quote from Jules Verne en français, with what at first I thought was a Pixar ball underneath. On second thought, it's probably a compass and I am really dumb. Next we have Videopolis, which houses a fast food eatery named Cafe Hyperion, as well as a stage which seems like it is never used anymore, as when I was there it just played Mickey Mouse cartoons aimed at little kids on repeat. Not like that matters much, because from the outside, what the fuck? This shit looks so cool! This to me screams of a team that had their budgets slashed, but still managed to get a bit of their vision out to the public. Like, look at that. To stop rambling on, towards the back of the land, the theming is lost, as we pass a cool Wall-E and Eve statue, Star Tours, a Star Wars meet and greet, as well as a theatre showing a Mickey film we'll talk about later. Oh, and a cool submarine. More on that later too. Now, has all this build up to Hyperspace Mountain, mainly talking about design, mixing in IP non-egregiously, and knowing how to impress someone, have any meaning to what I'm about to say? Yes! The warning lights go off as we enter the line. The sign looks rather tacked on, and it stands out compared to the hulking building in front of you. Not only that, but there are parallel cannons that must have worked well with the previous logo. As you walk in, the rock work around the queue looks like the rock work seen at the start of Discoveryland. Nice touch, as well as a submarine we'll have a gander at later. Continue walking and you noticed a Hyperspace Mountain poster, which looks fine enough in my opinion, though it does feel a bit out of place. Furthermore, we see a impressively big sign, Columbiad Baltimore Gun Club, and a fuck off massive cannon. Fun fact, we're about to be shot out of that. If you take the single rider line, you get a closer look at the cannon itself, as well as watching some people being shot through the cannon. Minus some bird shite, it's a nice view. I like the touches of the stars on the cannon where the bolts would be. That's it for the single rider queue, though you do get a cool view of the loading area, which we'll touch on later when we get there. Going through the main queue, admittedly, this is a very bland queue once you get indoors. There are a few posters of Star Wars related stuff such as X-Wings. You're kind of just standing in a dark room. Kinda ass, not gonna lie. But that's whatever. When we get to a room with more light than dark mood lighting, we get to what made me want to go on this much about theming and why this retheme is ass. So we get really cool art, what looks like blueprints of the canon as well as other theming to the previous versions of Space Mountain. To hammer this point home before I shut the hell up and ride the damn ride, can you tell me what feels out of place here? Temporary retheme my ass. I even noticed the sign again for the Baltimore Gun Club above the general entrance. The ride itself is for sure thrilling, albeit a bit bumpy and rough nowadays. I found the head restraint offered no support, so I just leaned forward a bit the whole time, which helped for sure. The build up is fun. The Star Wars theme plays as you drive to the launch, although to me, at this point, that damn theme is a meme, so it didn't do much for me personally. But I can see at this point people clapping, hollering and getting hyped, and I can't take that away from them. The layout itself is fine enough too. It feels faster than the Florida one, but the main appeal of what makes this ride unique, the Star Wars overlay, is what brings this ride down so far for me. Hyperspace Mountain was a massive disappointment. After the launch, with some nice lighting effects and a pretty crappy looking projection, the rest of the things you look at during this ride are crappy looking battles going on in space, and I got to admire how shite they looked at one point as my ride broke down on one of the 2 goes I got at this ride. There was one point where I did like the choice to have X-Wings, I think that's what these are, slow down, then fly down as we follow them. That was nice. But besides that, yeah, everything going on around us was really boring. The nice lighting effects I mentioned at the start do come back, but in a really cheap, crappy way too. I think there were green lights at one point to simulate gunfire. Like, come on, man. There is so much theming and storytelling going on with the ride building and the architecture that is going over my head, 100%. But as someone who doesn't fully get what's going on here, I feel properly offended at the Star Wars overlay and Hyperspace Mountain overall. I won't deny the ride feels rough nowadays. The layout I'm sure is exactly the same as from when it first opened, but the story being told here has been removed, watered down and made into a typical roller coaster, with Star Wars music, projections and some different coloured lights compared to other Space Mountains. This ride was probably the most disappointing one out of any I rode this trip. I was so sad when I got the ride, and I hope this ride gets the retracking and retheming back to its classic glory that it deserves. As of right now, Hyperspace Mountain is not only a shell of its former self, but a shell compared to other Space Mountains around the world. To get a nice reminder of times past, I tried out the Nautialus, which is a walk-through attraction of a submarine based on a Jules Verne story. I won't talk about it too much, as my footage of it is ass, but overall it is a nice break away from the crowds, walking around a well-themed space, which also had a short film playing it looked like. And you would watch it through like where you'd look out if you were in a submarine. It is cool. I wished I could say more about it, but it was nice to walk through, and almost like a time capsule of Disneyland Paris around the time it opened. Although I doubt it'll ever have much attention from regular guests, I hope it stays around for a good while. Plus, it looks nice when you stand outside of it, seeing both the Space Mountain and the Nautilus exteriors. Random aside that might help someone. I tried one of those like rent a power bank things you can get in places like at an airport. I need to grab one as my power bank got lost, and using my old backup phone as a charger was just destroying the battery. It was €4 for 2 hours, or €10 for a day, which seemed alright if you were in a pinch like I was. But if you have a case that provides any protection, like mine, you'll struggle to use it. I had to take my case off to charge my phone, and it didn't work at all for my action camera. I was gutted. Plus, for any USB-C or micro USB users, that bit is two-pronged. Yeesh. While I'm being negative, I found articles the night before saying that in Videopolis there is a charging section which you could use for free. Pretty epic, I thought. But then I rocked up and all I saw was places to rent power banks from, so they took that away. Luckily, there is one plug in there that still works. That image on screen right now is my clue. Think of this as a section as part of an RPG. Use this hint on your quest to try and charge your devices. Good luck, traveller. Oh, yeah, theme park review, sorry. Let's leave this submarine and the mountain of spaces behind us, past Videopolis, and parcel on over to the other Star Wars attraction in Discoveryland. There's a place to queue up and do a Star Wars meet and greet, if that's your kind of thing. And right next to it was the Disney theme park classic, Star Tours: The Adventure Continues. Because of my writing style and how I dart everywhere and nowhere at the same time, I'm not sure if I mentioned this yet, but overall with wait times, I had a lot of bad luck with my times. Every time I had was either exactly what it said it was, yay, or horribly wrong. For example, I said to myself I wouldn't do more than a 20-minute max queue for this ride, because A, I've been on this ride before, and B, I've reviewed it before. But the one time I rode it, I walked in to a 15-minute wait, but I ended up waiting 45 minutes, with no ride breakdowns. Ugh. I wanted to test that out, so when I went in again later in the day, on a 5-minute wait, I ended up getting stuck in the exact same position in the first waiting room, past the point of no return. Luckily for me, I have this weird ability in foreign places to not care what other people think, so as soon as I noticed what was going on, I got the hell out of there, as I was not waiting that long again. So Star Tours is pretty fun. When walking in, I noticed a train above me going past us. I took note of that, and we shall return to that later, as it was the last thing I did at this park. The first waiting room is lightly lit, with the main attraction being a screen of departure times. If you get stuck waiting here, you're looking at least a 30-minute wait, just a warning. Annoying too, as you're more than likely going to be stuck here if anywhere in this queue. A shame, as when we move to the next room, the next one's pretty cool. We see the vehicle we're going to be travelling in, along with the moving R2-D2 on top, as well as a C-3PO to the side. Plus a much bigger screen, showcasing not just that timetable again, but footage of places we'll possibly be visiting. I kept an eye out for my favourite baggage handler, and although he wasn't where I thought he would be, I found him. Honestly, once you get past that annoying start, it's a great queue. Really does make you feel like you're in like a spaceport, about to go God knows where. Well, we know where, we're going to space. Star Tours is a motion simulator ride, where you're supposed to be going on a guided tour of the galaxies of Star Wars. But things go wrong, and we are running, or fighting for our lives, as we still travel through the galaxies of Star Wars. It's a 3D ride, and the motion is smooth, while still feeling like what's actually happening on the screen in front of you is actually happening. The ride has great re-ride appeal, as you can get a wide variety of scenes. This includes the baddies chasing you, and the worlds we visit. For example, on this ride I got familiar sights such as that iconic AT-AT scene, but I also got new scenes, such as one where I was underwater and we saw some F-off massive mofo eat a vehicle in front of us. What's cool about it too, despite what you may think about modern Star Wars, I have no thoughts, this ride gets updated quite often with new stories from the world of Star Wars. And I'm pretty sure the new show, picture next to me as I have no idea what it's called, either has or is getting sections of the ride based on that show. That's pretty nifty. I would argue Star Tours is like the perfect example of a 3D motion simulator ride, and I think if this theme park reviewing stuff continues, expect a re-review of Star Tours when I visit it at another Disney park, as it is always a joy. And I highly recommend fans and non-fans alike give this ride a shot. I bet you'll leave at least feeling a little better than you did before. Unless you get terribly motion sick. In that case, I'm very sorry.
Star Tours. It's 2 against 1 here. Good, use some help.
Leaving through a gift shop that must make more than I ever will in my lifetime in a day, we're going to be sticking with Discoveryland as we discover everything else here. I kinda led with Hyperspace Mountain since I had a lot to say, so let's backtrack a bit. Mickey's PhilharMagic is a 3D film I have seen in the past, and was curious how the Disneyland version would play out. The entrance is to the side of both of the Star Wars attractions, and the entrance of Hyperspace Mountain. Not much to see around here, but you do get a nice side view of the Hyperspace Mountain building, as well as some simple but nice greenery. The queue for the Discoveryland Theatre, which houses this show, is big but unthemed, with nothing to look at besides a few pictures of Disney characters looking down at you in a condescending way. What do they know? The waiting area had a Goofy talking to us in English, with Minnie in French. And the room itself had nothing going on. A shame, as I had a distinct memory of the Orlando waiting room being themed with like nice lights or something, but whatever man, it's a waiting room. We enter the theatre, and I just want to highlight me getting nearly knocked over by someone barreling past me to try and get a good seat.
Whoa, what the fuck, mate?
Twat. The story's a perfect theme park plot, nice and simple. Mickey has a hat known as the Sorcerer's Hat, which allows him to control musical instruments. Donald Duck is also here though, and I guess the allure of that hat is just too damn much. He attempts to play the orchestra, using the hat's abilities, but the instruments are none too pleased with his anger. A scuffle takes place, a portal opens, and the hat and Donald are flung in. Spoilers ahead, as the that's cool of it all settles in after this scene. Donald then finds himself travelling through a variety of Disney worlds, mostly through their musical numbers. I will say, the animation quality does vary from scene to scene sometimes, and even shot to shot. For example, in the first world, set in Beauty and the Beast with the Be Our Guest musical number, certain shots looked lower quality than others. It was really odd. Anyways, that number happens, then we get a seamless transition to the next scene, based on Fantasia, I believe. Donald acts like a right twat, and then gets his comeuppance. Next, Donald's underwater with Ariel from The Little Mermaid. The scene opens with a fish, I think his name was Flounder, looking at us, the viewer, and saying, "Cool. Why did they add that?" I just have so many questions now. Like, are we breathing underwater? Anyways, moving on from that gross choice of filmmaking, we see Ariel almost mock Donald as she keeps moving the hat he needs out of his reach, while singing in both English and French. I was shocked how great this song, the Look at This Stuff, Isn't It Neat song was. I have actually seen The Little Mermaid since I wrote this bit. I actually think it's a pretty damn great film, despite the fact that Ariel has as much personality as this teleprompter I am reading from. Not to offend the teleprompter. Donald tries to smooch Ariel at one point, which, how old is she? Bestiality? Am I overthinking a kid's cartoon? Not much to look at here visually though, so moving on to The Lion King, with a Simba jump scare face and more 3D characters, who maybe I shouldn't be seeing in 3D. There was a nice touch here though, with having 2D cutouts of animals contrast with 3D characters in the foreground. I really like that. Moving on, we get a drastic change in quality as we move to the world of Coco. This shit was beautiful, not a single complaint here. See this show just for that bit, if anything. Next, Donald visits my neck of the woods as he flies over London, although he did nearly fall to his death at one point, but was saved thanks to some pixie dust. Finally, in this edition of Donald Across the Disneyverse, Donald finds himself on his own magic carpet, racing around to get the hat. Thankfully for him, the hat is gifted back to him by, this name. Mickey gets his hat back. All is well. We see a few seconds of an orchestra, and then it's over. Honestly, this film is a staple of a Disney trip for me. It's always a nice chance to sit down, relax, and enjoy some wonderful tunes while Donald battles his anger issues. I highly recommend it. Try to catch it just before a show. Don't worry about getting bad seats. Unless a show is new, it doesn't really get that high of crowds, I find. So rock on up, have a nice little dance in your seat. Oh, there's also 4D effects like air cannons and all that, though none of them were working for me on my visit. Final note, there was a nice quote at the end when you leave the theatre, which I liked. Taking imagination further. That's really cute. and does scream of a Disney of old, or at least one that I don't see much anymore.
Everybody look right. Everywhere you look, stand in the spotlight.
Leaving the Discoveryland Theatre and admiring the outside of Hyperspace Mountain before I then remember what's inside of it, we have one attraction left to tackle, that being Buzz Lightyear Laser Blast. I mentioned earlier in this video that I didn't mind the outside of the attraction, and I think that's because the entrance mixes in with the theme of the land quite well. Sure, the actual entrance stands out, but since you have to round a corner from entering Discoveryland to actually view it, it's not like as you enter seeing this really cool globe and sign, but you can also see the figure of the Toy Story character Buzz Lightyear at the same time. You know what I mean? Speaking of, look at him. What does he know that I don't? What is it with people in this park? The queue is cute, but nothing to write home about. Although there is a very cool mural to the side of the outside portion of the queue. The indoor portion must have been a COVID nightmare, as it is super cramped. Though a lovely surprise is rounding a corner to see an animatronic of Buzz Lightyear himself talking about... Not sure, as I walked past him very quickly. It was either about shooting Zurg in his bitch ass face, or something about a social security number. Pretty cool in person though. So this attraction is a dark ride, meaning that it's indoors, if you've never heard that phrase before. It doesn't mean Buzz Lightyear is going to start doing Mortal Kombat fatalities all of a sudden. And it's a ride where you're moving on a track inside a little pod, and you shoot shit. That's the nuts and bolts of it. It's got a very carnival aesthetic to it, with all the glow-in-the-dark imagery. We're shooting a variety of Z icons, or Z for my American friends, around both sides of you, trying to earn a high score. You can pick the side you want to shoot on by spinning around using a little knob on the vehicle. Hold your jokes, please. And the movement speed is slow enough so that you can shoot stuff as long as you can aim right. The spin does have a bit of jolt to it, so be ready for that. Speaking of the guns, trying to aim down the sights isn't too bad of an idea. I found both of the guns I used were pretty close enough, but I personally preferred just free aiming and seeing where the laser dot appears and working from there. Sadly, it's not a gun where you can just hold down the trigger, so be sure to swap fingers or hands as you go through the ride, as it was setting off my RSI pretty quickly. The visuals are carning in nature, like I said, but there are some standout moments. Pretty much anything involving Zurg is cool, such as being able to pop a cap in his ass at one point, as well as seeing him in a box at the end of the ride. That's about all I remember, to be honest. It's funny, you can kind of tell these rides are cheap to produce, as they are all over the world, plus, I mean, look at it, the shit's carny as heck. But that's okay. I really enjoy any of the Buzz Lightyear shooter rides at the Disney theme parks. An on-rails shooting game really can be simple fun that anyone who can hold the weapon can enjoy. The added layer of being able to spin around is nice too. Plus, we are simple creatures. Many of us see a chance to score high, and we want to try it.
Attention, Space Rangers. Your space cruisers have been temporarily halted. Please remain seated. Your mission will resume shortly.
Since I didn't ride Orbitron, Autopia, or visit the Star Wars characters meet and greet, let's head back to the hub, avoiding a parade to the best of our ability, and head into Frontierland, a land featuring a Wild West themed roller coaster, a nice little boat ride, and a ride about dead people. Frontierland is themed to like a Wild West mining town, and it does that well. But to be honest, the theming itself does nothing for me, with the main bits of interest in this land being the attractions. Like, the main thing that catches my attention in this footage I'm showing you is that there's merchandise of the Toy Story character Woody, instead of anything to do with the land. Is the land's theming bad? Hell no. It's done its job well. Just not got much to say on it. So let's hit up a ride. Big Thunder Mountain, a roller coaster that seems to be the focal point of this land that looks pretty dang good. From the outside, this ride has an awesome first impression. If you face it from most angles apart from the entrance, it looks like the ride takes place on its own isolated island. It's a nifty touch, plus you get a preview of how surprisingly long the ride is. And it's a nice chance to actually look at some of the ride's design, since when you're riding it, it's kind of hard to pay full attention. Walking through the queue, you see items used by mining companies. I'd assume. I would not know. I try and talk a big game, but sometimes theming just goes right over my head. Looks cool though. While we are waiting in line, I might as well talk about their Disneyland app, as it seems every bigger theme park in the world has an app nowadays. The app is fine enough. You're able to look at wait times, buy food and skip the line passes, and more. I didn't get to use every feature, but I did get to test out the directions feature, which worked well as purchasing a skip the line pass for a ride next door at Walt Disney Studios Park, which actually wasn't as fast as I'd thought it'd be, but it worked. Personally, I used the app to favourite rides I wanted to go on before actually arriving at the park, and then would consult the list as the day went on. The Wi-Fi worked fine in the park, although if you're in a queue that takes you outside of the park a bit too far, you will lose connection, so heads up there. Seems like it's our turn, so let's finally ride Big Thunder Mountain. Big Thunder takes no prisoners, as it gets right to business, dropping right into a tunnel. I wish I could tell you exactly what happens in the tunnel, but judging by the sounds I am making, it sounds like a good time. From there we climb up a lift hill with some red lighting to the right of you, showing how deep in the mine you currently are. From the drop you get a really nice sequence, where it almost feels like you're dipping and diving around canyons with cacti around you. On the footage I got, it looks pretty nice. In case you're wondering what these people who film rides look like, by the way, here's what I looked like. And I felt like a fool. We pass by the building that reads Big Thunder Mining Company as we dip down and get an effect of water shooting out around us, as if we are dipping into the water below for a quick temperature check. From there we round a corner and up a second lift hill. To our left we can see a Keep Out sign, a goat trying to eat a cloth, and the other side of the Big Thunder Mountain Co. building. Seems like wherever we're going, the bigwigs at BTM Co. do not want us going there. Sadly for them, we are stuck on a roller coaster track, so we have no choice. You know what I didn't notice until I reviewed my footage? God, it feels good to say that. At the top of the hill, you can see the Tower of Terror, which is a ride next door at Walt Disney Studios Park. I never noticed that. Looking here now too, I noticed some water jets shooting in the air in the distance. I now know that was more for the boat ride we'll touch on next, but it still adds to the ambience of the park, even if it wasn't the intended mise en scène. Can you tell I went to film school? We drop down and dip in and around the canyons once again, with one point being really dang thrilling from memory, where you're hard lefting for quite a while. But the fun is short-lived as we enter a dark building with the words, "Blast Area, Keep Out," atop us. The mine is rigged to blow. Sparks are projected above us as the ride bobs side to side. That was a cool surprise. We leave that mine, dip back into darkness, and get one big jolt at the end, and we are safe and sound. Although that last jolt did hurt a bit. As you can see from the few golf claps I gave the ride, I enjoyed Big Thunder Mountain. It has enough theming that it feels like you're elsewhere, but there's not enough so that I am annoyed that I miss it as I fly past. It's a good thrilling time, felt pretty dang smooth minus that bit at the end, and is for sure one worth considering running to in the morning, or when it's obvious people will be distracted, as it is a great time, and many people know it. From death-defying speeds to death, as we ignore the boat ride for a minute, and we head over to the Phantom Manor. I sadly didn't get to ride this at night, as I personally found the Haunted Mansion in Florida actually pretty creepy at night, but as I checked this clip, I was kinda disappointed to see that the queue isn't really themed to being creepy. Instead, it feels like it's supposed to be more subdued. Like Haunted Mansion, I instantly know when I go into that queue, yeah, this is supposed to be creepy. But with this ride, I feel like its intention was to almost trick people who have never been on this ride as to what the ride is. The music too, as you walk to the pre-show through the queue, isn't that creepy either. It sets the scene for sure, but it may be more curious more than anything else. The building you are going into, by the way, looks pretty cool. Again, it looks like something you'd see in a horror film. I, for some reason, got Texas Chainsaw vibes, probably from the muted colour palette. Although when the sun's fading, it can look quite pretty in a weird way. Walking past a nice view of Frontierland and Big Thunder Mountain, we find ourselves in a big, dimly lit room with a few portraits high above us. There's a geezer whose voice is coming over the speakers, who is basically saying, "There's no escape." As he does, the room feels like it's moving, even though you're standing still. Along with that, the portraits also move in an equally cool effect. From there we see that they are not what they seem, because as it pans down, we see they really aren't in the best possible position they could be. For example, there's a couple, a man and a woman, in one of the portraits. But once the room starts to move, the woman disappears, and the fella is actually standing on a bunch of TNT. I love this pre-show. The voiceover is a bit hokey. It's a bit like if I was trying to mock someone for being scared of something, or trying to pretend to be scary. But then again, I bet there's a bunch of kids who have had nightmares over that voice. So who am I to judge? Well, it's a review, but you get my point. After that, we walk towards the loading area for the ride. A very cool effect I missed both times is that the paintings on the walls would change. For example, there's one of a dude just standing there, but when it would flicker, you would see his skeleton. And one that I really like, there's two dudes standing back to back, ready to duel, with the alternate image being the result of said duel. I normally only take note of these kind of things when I am forced to because I'm standing still, but don't do what I did here. Actually take in the queue. People put their hearts and souls into these things. It's the least we could do. I was trying to do as much as I could to review the park, but that's no excuse. Enough talk, let's ride this mofo. As we get on, to the right of us there's a woman looking outside of a big window. My first thought was that she was the woman who disappeared during the queue, but I guess we'll have to see. The ride moves off, and the vehicle itself is a slow-moving, massive chair that seats two people. What's cool though is that the chairs rotate, so that the designers force you to face the way they want, ensuring you don't miss any key details. My headcanon, the chairs are possessed. We make our way through the manor. We see that woman again, but she is with someone with red eyes. An empty piano is getting played, and we pass a bunch of doors, with the cluttering sounds of scream and people asking for help attacking our second sense. We pass an orb with a woman's head on it, calling the undead to arise to an upcoming ball. We then see said ball in a wickedly cool effect. I rode the ride twice, just to take in this scene more. It's really cool. Above the dancing ghosts, we can see the woman wearing a bride's dress again, as well as the geezer with red eyes. We move on, and the bride is sat by her lonesome, looking into a mirror. But then we see him, that mofo with the red eyes. He stares at us, and laughs. Just as I noticed the actual lights that were used to light the graves he was digging, I wasn't even trying to lean forward to check, so there's that. We then pass skeletons, singing busts of dead people, and finally a whole town of green-faced people. So I'm assuming this fucker with the red eyes has killed us all, and we're in the afterlife? Either that, or he has killed everyone in a local town, and he's brought them back to life to try and show us his powers? There's 100% a story going on here that I am probably missing, but what's the fun in just reading a wiki page? I want to tell you my interpretation. So then Goku comes in. Nah, but for real, this is probably seen as an equally iconic scene as the ghost dancing. This village of dead people is so cool. It will take a couple rides to fully take in everything that's going on. There's some cool effects dotted around the animatronics too. I remember a poker game being played by ghosts through a window, being a bit that caught my eye. After leaving the town, that mofo appears again, but this time with an empty coffin, laughing. So I don't think we're dead yet, but he has plans. We escape the village, but remember the bride? Well, we turn to face a mirror, and there she is. She was telling me to marry her, but sadly I am taken, so I swatted her away, although all you can see on my footage is my arm, so moving on. Phantom Manor is an interesting one. I found it perfectly fine when I rode it on the day, but upon reflection, I like the ride a bit more. It's really well done, minus the light that I saw, tut tut, and it really does feel like the Disney Magic BS that they love to spew. It's that added layer of care and attention, which goes beyond your typical haunted house ride. I'll ride it again if I ever come back for sure, if anything to try and pick up on more details I missed. It's not my favourite ride in the park, not even my favourite ride in this land, but it's for sure worth your time. Luckily, the queues shouldn't be too bad. Due to the nature of the ride and how it never stops, you literally walk on a moving platform, like the Buzz Lightyear ride, and then you're off. I am unsure if I prefer Phantom Manor or Haunted Mansion, but I like them both. I was curious, so I read the Haunted Mansion Wikipedia, and it turns out this ride has a backstory related to the land it's in. That's pretty sick. Obviously, I didn't get much of it through the ride, be that because I didn't notice it, or it's found in supplemental material, I don't know, but it was actually an interesting read, and it makes me like this ride a bit more in retrospect. Though I wouldn't recommend reading it unless you watched a ride through or go on it yourself, as the context doesn't help much, but still pretty cool.
Goblins and creatures of fright, we summon you now to dance through the night.
We've been on a bit of a roller coaster of emotions, and an actual roller coaster. So let's relax for a minute and hop on the Mesa Riverboat landing. The main appeal of this is that you're riding a 19th century paddle boat, and yeah, that's kind of cool. But the point of the ride is to take a tour of Frontierland, see and be told some backstory of the land, and, well, enjoy the ride. I won't lie, I didn't take any of that backstory in. I used this as a chance to not be in reviewer mode for a minute and just enjoy my surroundings. You get some great views of Big Thunder Mountain, as well as Phantom Manor in the distance. Additional context and theming for Big Thunder, which was a nice touch. You see some geezer and his dog, some geysers, and we're back home. Viewing this as a ride, I think, is the wrong thing to do. View it as an attraction, a novelty, and when you enter with that mindset, it can be quite relaxing. Sure, the voiceover on the boat trying to tell you a story can be a bit annoying if that's not what you're there for, but just tune that out and you can have quite a nice little journey. As long as you can find a seat. There are other points of interest in Frontierland, such as a few eateries and an old school shooting gallery, but I sadly didn't get to go on them, so we'll be moving on to Adventureland. Adventureland has 3 distinctive entrance signs, one of which invokes a pirate vibe, one a more wooden, tree-like vibe, and the other gives me a Middle Eastern, Asian vibe when you enter Adventureland from the centre of the park. I like the multiple vibes you get when walking around the land. It really makes each of the attractions in this land feel like they belong, despite the fact that the big hitters are quite different from each other. Heck, remember I mentioned one of the entrances has a Middle Eastern, Asia vibe? That's because the very small area near that entrance is all based around the film Aladdin. There's a buffet, a walk-through attraction, a meet and greet, all with an Aladdin theme. Love that. Didn't do any of the stuff, but worth mentioning. Speaking of stuff I didn't do, Frontierland also has a playground for kids, I think, but I didn't even walk to that part of the park, so just being transparent. Plus I didn't want to get on a list. Overall, the theming of this land is actually pretty damn great. I didn't appreciate it at the time, as I was just hoofing it to the rides, but actually sitting down and thinking about it, Adventureland's a really well done land. Speaking of, I didn't get to go into Adventure Isle, which is known as the Robinson's Treehouse in Florida, and I did that in the past, but I kind of regret skipping it this time when I look at my footage, as I think it fits into the land so well, and I bet I missed out on some good theming and some nice views. Oh well, next time. Enough excuses. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril, a roller coaster exclusive to Disneyland Paris. Walking to the ride, you know you're on the right track, as there's a small sign to the side of a pathway to the ride, varying character with an explorer. Follow the signs and find your destiny. To your left, you'll see the ride itself, a roller coaster track that loops around what looks like a tower that has been investigated, as well as 2 animal statues that look like a cross between a tiger and a snake. The queue itself feels weirdly generic, so I'm assuming we are seeing items left behind what I would assume are the baddies seen in an Indiana Jones movie, as we see camps and vehicles, but none of it really feels Indiana Jones. Like, remove the name, and I would have just said it was a ride about a generic archaeologist finding a tomb or something. After the general queue and you get near the loading area, you can actually walk near to said tower we saw outside the queue. We pass some cool little snake statues, and finally we are ready to get on the ride. The queue's theming isn't bad, it just left a bit to be desired. Although then again, without actually entering a tomb or something, I'm not sure how you can make Indiana Jones feel cool, you know? I do know that there's a ride at Disneyland in California too, based on Indiana Jones, so maybe I can be proven wrong. I was told I wasn't able to film, though there are plenty of POVs out there online, so whatever. The ride itself is short, lasting around 70 seconds. During it, we tour around 2 temples, mainly moving around the outside, though we do dip under at one point and have a loop-de-loop which caught me by surprise. Touring the temples is kinda cool, but sadly the ride itself is quite the headbanger. I wasn't jolting back and forth much, more going side to side, vibrating almost. It was quite uncomfortable, no matter how hard I prepped myself. It's good fun for a short wait, as it's a basic roller coaster with a bit of decorations dotted about to make it look cooler, but it's nothing special. I think maybe having some sound effects, such as when you dip in the dark for a second, having snakes, or even just having the Indiana Jones theme playing at the start or end, would really help the ride come to life a bit more. It does look a tad cool at night, as it seems most rides do, but I would say only really ride this if you're strong-headed and it's got a nice short wait. The ride vehicles look like minecarts though, so that's nice and on brand. Moving from a temple with skulls to Skull Rock. Not much to say here as I didn't interact with either the skull or the pirate ship, but visually this area is really cool. It even has a custom map of Adventureland, which really helps with the immersion. Plus, all this helps the transition towards the next big heavy hitter, Pirates of the Caribbean. You know that film franchise that started quite a long time ago now? Yeah, it was originally based off this ride. Well, not this ride exactly, but you get what I mean. Pirates of the Caribbean is a dark ride where you are sat on a boat, watching a story around you about pirates doing crap. What is said crap? I don't know, look up a video about it. After walking under a sail with the ride's name on it, you find yourself in a very dark, dimly lit queue. The smell of water hits you from really far away, which quickly, you want to know why theme park water has that unique smell? It's the chemical used to clean the water. It isn't chlorine, but bromine. Video links below if you want to learn more. I don't talk about music much, something I really need to work on, but I remember the cue music for this ride quite vividly. If you think pirate, then it's probably what you think it is, but it just got me in the right headspace as I walked in. Once you've left the dimly lit halls, that my god, my action camera in dark mode just could not see, you're near the boarding area. Here the sky above is pure black. Above you are a bunch of lanterns, and the floor and walls are of a rocky nature, as well as there being palm tree looking foliage. It's a pretty nifty loading area, even if it gets very tight when people are waiting. Perhaps it's the way I take in information, but with dark rides it takes me quite a few goes before I actually understand what's going on. I think this is due to the fact that in dark rides like this, shit's going on all around you, plus there's music and dialogue overlapping often, because you can kinda hear what's happening behind and in front of you. But I will say, Pirates doesn't have that issue to nearly the same degree I have on other dark rides. Each show scene is far enough away from each other so that I never really got that overlapping problem. So maybe I'm just a moron? Anyways, the boat leaves the dock, and the earworm that is the cue music leaves you behind. Seriously, it's annoying how catchy that yo-ho Pirates Life for Me shit is. As you leave, On your left, you'll peer into a restaurant, which is a bit weird in my opinion. As a guest to the restaurant, that's kind of cool. You get to watch the ride go past. But as a rider, it's a bit strange, as you've had this really immersive queue, you're ready for a boat ride, and oh, is she having the parfait? Moving on, the ride story begins, as we pass by a ship that's been blown in half. Sinister music plays, and then the boat gets pulled up a hill, which I'm assuming in story is happening by these chains to the right of us. We hear "Dead Men Tell No Tales," which I swear was one of the names of one of the movies. And this geezer, who I'm assuming has some horrific Rule 34, says something I really couldn't hear. And then we have a small drop. We see some cats not looking to get wet, then pass by what looks like a battle, which these people have either lost or are losing. If you look up, you'll see a geezer swinging, which is pretty neat, I will say. Passing by prisoners and a dog who has keys and isn't swapping them for anything but a treat, we have a much bigger drop this time, which is actually somewhat thrilling. Although both times I rode this, I never got wet. So that's nice. The foreplay is over, and we are thrust right into an active battle, which has been overthrown with pirates. They demand for a Jack Sparrow, but he's nowhere to be seen. This scene's pretty neat. A lot's going on, and a bit that always stands out to me are those people constantly running. So goofy, yet sad at the same time. Speaking of that bit, to the side of the chaser and chasee, we have a pirate sitting down, waving a key around. In a barrel next to him, Jack Sparrow has a keen eye for said key. Moving further through the town, it's proper fucked at this point. The pirates have set that mofo alight, plundering it for all they've got. And all while singing a merry tune. Yo ho, a pirate's life for moi. Normally you have to wait here, so you get a good amount of time to take in everything around you. A small drop occurs, and the vibe's a bit more spooky now. Can't you tell? There's a big skull and everything. We also pass someone who has a mighty good laugh while thunder bursts behind them. A bit of a dick move to not tell me what was so funny, so we move on. Believe it or not, the next scene's the last, with Jack Sparrow sitting on a vast spoil of riches, talking and singing to his parrots. Huh. So we see a battle, a village get plundered, Jack somehow steals that key that led to all that shit the pirates plundered in the town, and happy ending? I am assuming that's the story. At least that's what I got from it. Pirates is a nice enough ride. The vibe's spot on, and you do get enough time to really take in every show scene. It's not for me, personally, mainly because the pirates I'd rather be seeing are those of the straw hat variety, but Pirates of the Caribbean is still a good time, and I'm sure you probably know this ride exists, even if you're not a theme park person, and it's worth a ride at least once. I wouldn't mind if there were different takes on this ride, as I feel the storytelling here is a bit outdated, or at the very least is following an archaic framework that needs modernising. I wonder if the Tokyo version of this ride is better. I swear I hear like every version of a ride is better in Tokyo. Leaving the land of adventure, we move on to the land of fantasy in Fantasyland. For some reason, when I think of Disneyland, Magic Kingdom, or any Disney parks with a castle in it, I always think of this land first for some reason. Which is odd to say, as I'm not really the target demographic here. As you can maybe guess by the name, Fantasyland is based on properties that are of a more fairy tale nature. Stories like Snow White, Pinocchio, Dumbo, Sleeping Beauty, them kind of vibes. The architecture and especially colour design is more of a classical European feel, with colours not commonly seen on buildings, like darker reds with blue accents. But Fantasyland here also feels a bit weathered. Like there's a hub that is always busy near the castle, as there's a bunch of attractions in close proximity we'll get to shortly. But as you walk away from the hustle and bustle and move more towards the rides aimed at little kids, it feels really worn down. There was one kids ride with like a big book. I'll try and find recent footage and put it here. But that book looked like it was from a library from a secondary school. It was discoloured, worn down, and in deep need of replacing. I am personally rather unimpressed by Fantasyland's design, partly due to how cluttered it all is, but also in a weird way, how basic it is. perhaps this is the intent. Fantasylands around the world are meant to look like how Walt and his team designed it back in the 1950s, and the Walt Disney Company wants it, to stay that way. And that's perfectly fine if that's their goal. But in this park, the further away parts really needed work to bring it up to the standard we hold Disney to. And if you just look at the map and contrast the lower portion of Fantasyland to the other lands in the park, you can clearly see how tightly packed the attractions are. This just makes for a nasty experience walking through. Even worse, there's a fucking sword in the stone photo op in the middle of a pathway that takes you from Fantasyland to the fucking castle. It is a frickin' nightmare, man. So were the rides any good? Well, let's start with a quick fire of everything I didn't do. Peter Pan's flight was closed for refurbishment. Pinocchio just kept going down no matter what, so that was a no-go. The teacups and the carousel I ignored, as if you've done one, you've done them all, I'd argue. Dumbo had way too long of a queue for me to consider riding it again. Casey Jr.'s kiddie coaster looked fine, but I didn't want any more looks than I already had on this trip for being British. The miniature village was closed, which is a shame, as I find that kind of stuff cute. And the rest I either did or have talked about already. As the castle and the dragon under the castle count as attractions, which... yeah, fair enough. Whew, right. Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, or as it's called in this park, Blanche-Neige et les Sept Nains, is a classic dark ride in Disney parks, and it feels classic in the queue. You walk side to side, surrounded by skim theming such as lights, a mural at the end, and a small section with prison bars which had some props inside of them. Yeah, and I think that's about it. Nothing else to say, so let's ride the ride. The ride is a retelling of the Snow White story, which, yeah, I got the idea of the story from the ride. The scenes were all well made. There wasn't much sound bleed from scene to scene. Yeah, overall, I think this is an alright dark ride, and I bet the target audience love it. However, has anyone else who was in this ride think it's a bit too fast? Like, it might not come off on camera, but it really felt like the ride vehicles were darting from scene to scene, ruining the pacing. What hammered that home for me was when the ride broke down. Someone was also told to turn off their flash if memory served correct, which was just kind of funny. I don't know. The ride does its job as a brief retelling of the story of Disney's Snow White. I just think it needed more scenes of the dwarves discussing why they actually like Snow White, as I'm willing to bet at least some of them are hiding something. Not off to the best of starts, but what else does my teleprompter say that I rode in this land? There's just a bunch of dots and me saying no, 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 no over and over again. Oh god, I gotta talk about It's a Small World, don't I? You know you're on the right track to It's a Small World, as from afar you can see the facade. It's not bad. Sure, up close it may look a bit cheap, but still eye-catching nonetheless. I like the logo and the sign too, with the boat above a fountain. Sadly, this queue's painfully boring. Florida's wasn't much better, but at least there was like a wall of stuff to look at from memory. This version's got nothing really, apart from looking at the mural more and trying to keep an eye out for the train to save them from the misery that's about to begin. It's a Small World is a slow-moving boat ride through different scenes of a variety of dolls, all with a variety of movements that they do. Some just kind of move their arms, while some dance and pretend to play an instrument. They are all singing a song on repeat in their native languages, although I'm not sure what a mermaid's native language is. The main message that I gathered from this ride is that It's a Small World is a message of unity. We very, 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 very slowly move through different cultures, and the ride wants to tell a message on inclusivity, while also having the ride be inclusive, considering on the way in and out, the words welcome and goodbye can be seen in a big variety of languages. The ride is the most inoffensive thing possible, and that's not a bad thing. But for me, the ride's message is understood pretty quickly into the ride, and I'm willing to bet this was written to be an earworm or earwig, depending on who you ask. As you'll either be in love with or despise the titular song It's a Small World, by the time you inevitably get stuck at the end of the ride and are forced to listen to the whole blasted thing on loop for even more time than you should have because the ride is disembarking and you're stuck waiting. Judging by my language thus far, I am sure you can tell how I feel about the song. While being stuck at the end, I reflected on stupid people online who have gotten out of a ride and walked around and generally acted like an asshole, ruining somebody else's day. Well, if I was stuck on this ride, and I was told that in 5 minutes the world was about to blow up, I would be sure to get out of the vehicle and destroy as many of those singing fuckers as I can with a Dead Rising-esque kill counter in my head, as I am not going out of this world hearing that damn song. Perfect tourist trap ride, perfectly inoffensive, does a perfect job of what it wants to do, and I want to dropkick every single one of those singing dolls for Christmas. Escaping my living nightmare, we move away from It's a Small World, and sadly, I didn't ride anything else in Fantasyland. There are some iconic to Disney attractions I didn't get to ride, like Dumbo, which is a spinning ride where you go up and down a bit. Alice's Curious Labyrinth looked interesting, but at the same time I had no idea how long it would take, and I wasn't ready to find out on this trip. And that's all I can say, really. Fantasyland's not aimed at someone like me, and the proof's in the pudding on this occasion. I didn't do much, and what I did do wasn't too much to my liking, really. Not like that's a bad thing, though. I can't exactly get mad at a place that isn't even designed to be something I'd like, you know? And with that, we have covered every land. But there's one attraction yet to be experienced. Walt Disney was known to be a lover of trains, and that passion he had continues today in, I believe, every Castle Disney park with the addition of the Disneyland Railroad. I won't say it's thrilling to a Brit like myself who rides trains often to get around. However, it is quite novel to be able to view all the lands you are about to or just did experience from a whole new angle. Getting to peer into and over rides like It's a Small World is pretty cool. Plus, I loved getting an elevated angle of the Space Mountain exterior. The train does stop at lands around the park, such as Frontierland and Discoveryland, meaning that if there's no wait, this could be a cool way to get around the park if you need it. Each of the stops are themed to their lands too, which is a great bit of detail I like and expect from a Disney park. It adds that extra bit of immersion to it all, you know? The stop at the front of the park to me stands out the most. It is well themed, and is pretty nifty seeing the train pass you by as you wait. There was a point where you go into the dark and see some dioramas of stuff. Not sure what was going on there, so can't comment on that. But you know what? I think I get the appeal of these trains now. The compartments are not cramped. You get a nice view of the park. You can use it as an actual train if you wish. I think I finally get it now. I did that as the last thing in the day, and it almost feels like a retrospective of the day I just had. It gave me a chance to relive what I just did, and reflect, and take in everything from a whole new angle. Finally, a few random points I wanted to mention. I am not really into nighttime shows, mainly due to how barbaric people get when trying to get a spot. Like when I saw a show at Magic Kingdom once, it was mental seeing how much people will push and shove just to get a view of the show. Proper Black Friday levels of not giving a fuck for your fellow man. So I shan't talk about that today, sadly. I am actually curious how people justify theme park prices for food. I will see if I actually have footage of it here, but when I noticed a diner on top of Main Street, I thought it looked kind of nice. However, when I looked at the price, I believe it was €80 for an adult, and I said, screw that to myself out loud, and a random woman next to me went, I know. All-you-can-eat buffet in that bit there. €80 for an adult. Fuck that. It's understood why theme park food is so pricey. They got you by the balls unless you leave. A bit like an airport. But Disneyland Paris really jumped out to me on this occasion for its pitiful value for money versus other Disney parks I have been to. I am more than sure I am wrong. And they are all equally as horrific, but it just jumped out to me on this trip. Rope dropping this park was quite uncomfy compared to other Disney parks. You have to wait outside to be let in, that's fine, but afterwards you are stuck in a pretty tight area in front of the turnstiles, and it felt like you are properly trapped. I think I got footage of it. If I do, I'll show it here. Although the app worked well, I did feel like it was a bit undercooked in terms of the features compared to the Florida version. But then again, this version has a bit of a less stressful paid FastPass service, so you win some and you lose some. So Disneyland Paris overall. I think it's a pretty good theme park. Of course the quality is pretty much there, however the exclusive attractions really brought down the park in my eyes. As in my opinion, any of these castle parks are held up or brought down by their exclusive attractions and rides. As the tried and tested rides like Pirates of the Caribbean, the Disneyland Railroad, Big Thunder Mountain and so on, have that layer of quality you would expect. So what exclusive attractions did I even do at this park? Let's recap. Hyperspace Mountain is a shell of its former self, inside of a very nice looking shell. Indiana Jones was an alright coaster, but it felt like it was lacking a bit of something. Phantom Manor is a nice reskin of the Haunted Mansion. The Submarine, aka the Nautialus, is an amazing bit of theming. Same goes for Videopolis, at least on the outside. And all that combined kind of sums up Disneyland Paris. It's a mixed bag in terms of attractions. I enjoyed the park, and some of the classic rides are nailed here, even if they are mostly clones. But there's something this park has that I don't know if any of the other Disney castle parks have. It's pretty dang pretty. Very clean too. Each of the lands has nice details that make them stand out compared to other lands in the park. Like Discoveryland, at least the parts that are on Star Wars, are beautiful. Adventureland is a nice, simple walk with pretty sights to take in. Like noticing Skull Rock and the treehouse for the first time were memorable moments. Little things like those spinning metal figures at the end of Main Street, plus the castle is beautiful. And there's a damn dragon under it. Come on man, that's cool. One thing I don't think I've talked about in my reviews is the value of the parks, apart from maybe touching on it. I had a 2-day park-to-park ticket, meaning I could come from one park to another during their operating hours, which was £132. Not gonna lie, I don't think that's too bad, especially if you were to consider the cheapest I could find for a 2-day, 2-park ticket at Walt Disney World in Florida. That was $400, and the same ticket but for Disneyland in California is $366. So Disneyland Paris, value-wise, is probably one of the cheaper parks you could visit, Disney-wise, at least in terms of the ticket pricing alone. I personally was rather happy with the price I paid, and although it doesn't change my opinion about the parks, it does soften the blow of any issues I may have had. Well, we have experienced the park, but the journey's not quite over yet. We've got to leave the parks to get the full experience, as we walk through Disney Village. Quickly, before we begin, Disney Paris has given me an experience that I really didn't see coming. People selling cheap and tacky merch outside the park. Anywho, let's have a gander and discuss any highlights that pop to mind. Just before you enter security at Disney Paris, to your side you'll see the World of Disney store. It really didn't sell anything that you wouldn't have seen in the parks, however it did look nice on the inside. And that's the running theme of a lot of these stores you see inside Disney Village, with a few exceptions. Continue walking along and we pass a massive IMAX cinema that I wish I could have tried out, but time and all that. As well as a massive Mickey D's and Annette's, which looked like a 90s diner, which actually looked pretty good. From there, we have the main strip of Disney Village. I really like the vibe here. It's not a massive strip, but since it's rather small, even with a somewhat small amount of people, the place can feel lively. Plenty of flashing lights and signs to draw your attention to waste your money on tat that someone close to you will say you didn't really need. Speaking of flashy lights, the Disney store here looked pretty damn nifty on the inside. Sure, it is just a store, but having things hanging from the ceiling adds a lot to the personality of a store. That extra touch that makes you go, oh, huh, how cool. Some places of interest that jumped out to me were the Disney Gallery, a place that, it's open, so it must be getting business, but I don't know, different strokes and all that, but I couldn't picture going to a theme park and buying a framed painting or a sculpture. Disney Fashion had an interesting variety of clothing on offer, including stuff that was styled to the clothing that was sold back in 1992, when Disney Paris first opened. I was interested, but the price made me fly back to the UK the same day. And there was a Rainforest Cafe, or as it says here, Ra Cafe. Basically what a roadman would say if they were craving a bacon butty at 8 AM. The Rainforest Cafe looked like utter tourist trap rubbish, and I will one day for sure check one out. I think there's one around Animal Kingdom in Florida, so maybe one day. But yeah, Disney Village looked like a fun time, and a nice way to end a night at the parks, with enough to do that you could spend an evening there mulling about. There was further you could walk along a body of water towards a Marvel hotel, but further than that, it could be Silent Hill for all I know. Actually, there was a hot air balloon there, so maybe that's what takes you to Silent Hill? Disneyland Paris. I enjoyed it overall, and I do think it's worth your time, and I will fully acknowledge that part of my bias to the Florida parks is because I grew up with those parks, and something you see as a kid is more magical than a nihilistic 20-something. I can say upon reflection, this park is the best Disney park I have been to so far that has respect for great storytelling, so I will give it that. I don't agree with what people say online, saying that this is the most pretty park though. I personally prefer walking through Animal Kingdom, but that's just me. If anything though, visiting Disneyland Paris made me want to visit every Disney park and eventually make reviews of them all, to then make that one big which park is best video. But considering they are all around the world and I live in the UK, spare some change.